What if I told you that a small Asian country just made a strategic move in Africa that could reshape global trade patterns, and almost nobody is talking about it? This isn't your typical story about Western powers, or even traditional partners like China or Russia. This time it's Bangladesh knocking on Africa's door, specifically at Burkina Faso, with a proposal that could transform the cotton industry for both nations. In recent months, Burkina Faso has been making headlines for all the right reasons. After boldly cutting ties with former colonial powers, the country under President Ibrahim Traoré has become a magnet for new partnerships based on mutual respect and genuine benefit. But this latest development might be the most intriguing yet. Why would Bangladesh, a country best known for its massive textile industry, travel all the way to West Africa? And more importantly, what does this mean for Africa's economic independence? Stick with me, because what I'm about to reveal might completely change how you view South-South cooperation. Let's start with a fact that might surprise you. The shirt you're wearing right now has a decent chance of being made in Bangladesh. This South Asian nation has quietly become one of the world's largest garment manufacturing hubs, powering a textile industry that's now the third largest globally. But here's the catch. To keep those factories running, Bangladesh needs massive quantities of raw cotton. We're talking about 1.3 million metric tons annually. Currently, they import this cotton from various sources, but the recent diplomatic mission to Burkina Faso suggests they're looking for more reliable, cost-effective partners. The timing is particularly interesting. Bangladesh's textile sector employs over 4 million people and generates more than $35 billion in annual export revenue. For a country of 170 million people, this industry isn't just important, it's the backbone of their economy. So when Bangladeshi officials recently sent an ambassador to meet with President Traoré, this wasn't just a courtesy call. They came with a serious business proposition. Now, let's talk about why Bangladesh chose Burkina Faso specifically. Under President Traoré's leadership, Burkina Faso has experienced what can only be described as an agricultural renaissance, with cotton leading the charge. The numbers tell an incredible story. In the 2023 to 2024 season alone, cotton production surged by 25%. But Traoré's government isn't stopping there. They're targeting nearly 600,000 tons of cotton for the current season. That's a staggering 55% increase from the previous year. This isn't just ambitious planning, it's strategic positioning. Burkina Faso has always been one of Africa's leading cotton producers, often ranking among the top 5 on the continent. But under Traoré, the focus has shifted from merely producing cotton to creating a sustainable, scalable supply chain that can compete globally. The government has invested heavily in this transformation. They've subsidized inputs for farmers, introduced biotechnology to combat pest resistance, and poured resources into modernizing the entire value chain. The result? Burkina Faso now offers cotton at wholesale prices ranging from 28 to 48 cents per kilogram, significantly below the global average of 60 cents to $1.20 per pound. When the Bangladeshi ambassador met with President Traoré, the proposal on the table was straightforward but potentially revolutionary. A direct cotton trade agreement that would bypass traditional intermediaries and create a sustainable partnership between the two nations. For Bangladesh, this represents several advantages. First, there's the cost factor. Burkina Faso's competitive pricing could significantly reduce their raw material expenses. Second, there's reliability. Having a dedicated supplier reduces dependency on volatile global markets. Third, there's the growing demand for ethically sourced materials, and Burkina Faso's emerging organic cotton sector, though still modest at around 3,250 tons, taps into this trend. But this isn't just about cotton. The discussions reportedly extended to broader cooperation in textiles, agricultural products, leather goods, ready-made garments, and even pharmaceuticals. For Burkina Faso, this means diversifying trade partners and expanding market access for their products. The timing couldn't be better. Recent customs data shows that trade between the two countries is already happening. In 2024, Multiple shipments of raw cotton worth over $427,000 were sent from Burkina Faso to Bangladesh in July alone, with additional shipments in October valued at $22,000. The partnership is already in motion. The formal agreement would simply scale it up dramatically. To truly understand what's happening in Burkina Faso today, we need to look back at the revolutionary leader Thomas Sankara. From 1983 to 1987, Sankara implemented one of Africa's most successful agricultural transformation programs, with a vision that seems remarkably relevant today. Sankara believed that true independence meant food self-sufficiency. He implemented land redistribution reforms and promoted subsistence agriculture, focusing on local production of rice, corn, and millet. For Sankara, importing these basic staples was a form of economic imperialism that kept African nations dependent on former colonial powers. The results were extraordinary. By 1987, Burkina Faso's grain production had reached 1.6 million tons, an achievement so remarkable that the UN's Special Rapporteur on the Right to Food declared that Thomas Sankara conquered hunger. He did this without a single cent of foreign aid, relying instead on smart policies, community mobilization, and unwavering belief in his people's capabilities. Tragically, Sankara's vision was cut short by betrayal. His former ally, Blaise Compaoré, orchestrated a coup that not only ended Sankara's life, but systematically dismantled his achievements. Under Compaoré's 27-year rule, supported by France, Burkina Faso slid back into dependency on foreign aid and imported food. Today, President Ibrahim Traoré is reviving Sankara's vision with modern tools and strategies. The scale of his agricultural investment is unprecedented. As part of the 2025 to 2026 agro-pastoral campaign, the government allocated over 104 billion CFA francs, that's roughly $170 million, to boost the country's agricultural capacity. On May 22, 2025, President Traoré personally oversaw the distribution of agricultural materials in Bobo-Dioulasso, one of Burkina Faso's major cities. This wasn't just a photo opportunity. It was a demonstration of direct government commitment to agricultural transformation. The resources distributed were staggering. Thousands of tons of plant seeds, over 11,000 tons of animal feed, 1,580 tons of fish feed, 70,000 tons of mineral fertilizers, nearly 67 million doses of veterinary products, and sophisticated equipment including 608 tractors, 485 motor pumps, and 4 combine harvesters. This level of investment goes beyond traditional agricultural support. It's creating an integrated system that includes processing capabilities, 10 processing units for cotton and oilseed products, juice extractors, vacuum packers, and pasteurizers. The goal is clear, not just to produce raw materials, but to add value locally and create jobs throughout the supply chain. Here's where things get interesting and controversial. Would Traoré have been able to achieve this rapid transformation under a traditional democratic system? The evidence suggests probably not, and this raises uncomfortable questions about governance in Africa. Consider the typical democratic process. A president proposes a major agricultural investment program. It goes to parliament for debate. Various committees review the budget. Politicians negotiate for their constituencies. Bureaucrats create implementation procedures. By the time anything happens, if it happens at all, years have passed, and much of the allocated funding has disappeared into various pockets. Traoré, leading a military government, bypassed this entire process. When he decided to invest in agriculture, tractors and fertilizers were delivered directly to farmers within months. No lengthy parliamentary debates, no bureaucratic bottlenecks, no opportunity for corrupt officials to siphon off funds. This doesn't mean military rule is inherently superior. History is full of examples of military leaders who abused their power. But it does highlight a fundamental challenge in African governance. How do you balance democratic accountability with the need for rapid, decisive action? Even the president of Botswana, one of Africa's most stable democracies, recently acknowledged that bureaucratic systems often slow progress to a crawl. when every decision requires consensus from dozens or hundreds of politicians, many of whom are more interested in personal gain than national development, transformative change becomes nearly impossible. The Bangladesh-Burkina Faso partnership represents something larger than a simple trade agreement. It's part of a growing trend towards South-South cooperation that could reshape global trade patterns. For decades, African countries have been locked into trade relationships that primarily benefit former colonial powers. Raw materials flow north, finished products flow south, and the value addition happens elsewhere. This partnership challenges that model by connecting two developing nations based on mutual benefit rather than historical exploitation. Bangladesh gets reliable, cost-effective cotton. Burkina Faso gets access to new markets and the potential for technology transfer in textile manufacturing. Both countries reduce their dependence on traditional Western trade partners and create new opportunities for their citizens. This isn't just economics, it's geopolitics. As Western influence in Africa wanes and countries like Burkina Faso assert their independence, new partnerships become both possible and necessary. The fact that Bangladesh, a country with no colonial history in Africa, can build meaningful relationships with African nations shows what's possible when trade is based on mutual respect rather than historical domination. Of course, this partnership isn't without challenges. Logistics remain a significant hurdle. Shipping cotton from landlocked Burkina Faso to Bangladesh requires sophisticated supply chains and reliable infrastructure. Currently, most shipments likely go through ports in neighboring countries like Ghana or Ivory Coast, adding complexity and cost. There's also the question of scale. While Burkina Faso's cotton production is growing rapidly, meeting Bangladesh's full demand of 1.3 million metric tons would require even more dramatic expansion. This means continued investment in farming technology, irrigation systems, and processing facilities. Quality control is another consideration. Bangladesh's textile industry serves global brands with strict quality requirements. Burkina Faso will need to maintain consistent standards while scaling up production, a challenge that requires ongoing investment in technology and training. But these challenges are manageable with proper planning and investment. The Islamic Development Bank's $120 million facility channeled through Burkina Faso SOFEX in May 2025 shows that international financial institutions are willing to support this expansion. One aspect that makes this partnership particularly compelling is its potential sustainability impact. As global consumers become more conscious about supply chain ethics, the demand for transparently sourced materials is growing rapidly. Burkina Faso's emerging organic cotton sector, while still small, positions the country to tap into premium markets. Organic cotton typically sells for 20 to 40% more than conventional cotton, offering higher margins for farmers and the country overall. Moreover, direct partnerships like this one reduce the environmental impact of complex global supply chains. Instead of cotton traveling through multiple intermediaries and potentially multiple countries before reaching Bangladesh, a direct relationship streamlines the process and reduces the carbon footprint. The success of this partnership could have broader implications for West Africa and South Asia. If the Bangladesh-Burkina Faso model proves successful, it could inspire similar partnerships throughout the region. Mali, another major cotton producer, is already watching closely. Chad, Niger, and Benin all have significant agricultural sectors that could benefit from similar South-South partnerships. On the Asian side, countries like Vietnam and Cambodia, with growing textile industries, might seek their own African partners. This could fundamentally reshape trade patterns in both regions, reducing dependence on traditional North-South trade flows and creating new opportunities for developing nations to work together. As of now, no formal agreement has been signed, but reports suggest the initial discussions were promising. Both sides see clear benefits, and the preliminary trade data shows the partnership is already functioning on a smaller scale. For President Traoré, this partnership fits perfectly with his broader vision of economic independence and South-South cooperation. It demonstrates that African countries don't need to rely solely on traditional partners to achieve development goals. For Bangladesh, it represents supply chain diversification and potentially lower costs. crucial advantages in the competitive global textile market. The key question now is implementation. Can both countries scale up the relationship to meet their ambitious targets? Can they build the infrastructure and systems needed to support large-scale trade? Can they maintain quality while expanding quantity? The Bangladesh-Burkina Faso Cotton Partnership represents more than just a trade deal. It's a symbol of what's possible when African countries assert their independence and seek partnerships based on mutual benefit rather than historical obligation. Under President Traoré's leadership, Burkina Faso is proving that African countries can be producers, processors, and partners rather than just suppliers of raw materials. The massive agricultural investments, the focus on value addition, and the pursuit of diverse trading relationships all point to a new model of development. This isn't about rejecting all foreign partnerships. It's about choosing partnerships that truly benefit African people. When Thomas Sankara declared that, "He who feeds you controls you," he understood that food security and economic independence go hand in hand. Today, Traoré is applying that same principle to international trade. The success or failure of this partnership will be watched closely across Africa and Asia. If it succeeds, it could inspire a new wave of South-South cooperation that reshapes global trade patterns. If it fails, it will provide valuable lessons for future attempts. But based on the evidence so far, the dramatic increase in cotton production, the massive government investment in agriculture, the existing trade flows, and the mutual benefits for both countries, this partnership has every reason to succeed. What do you think? Is this the kind of partnership Africa needs to achieve true economic independence? Could this model work for other African countries and sectors? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If you found this analysis valuable, please hit the like button and subscribe for more content about Africa's changing role in global politics and economics. And don't forget to ring the notification bell so you never miss our latest videos exploring the stories that mainstream media often overlooks. The future of Africa is being written today, and partnerships like this one between Bangladesh and Burkina Faso might just be the blueprint for that future. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.